Before we start this show, just a word from our sponsor, 20 by 20 Apparel. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel brings original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the bloopers, bleeps, and body slams along with the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest that pro wrestling has had to offer. Along with their awesome line of pro wrestling apparel, they do offer many services. In the world of wrestling, there are hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads. Don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all the tees in-house. If you would like to discuss possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, or whatever, drop them a line. Go to 20 by 20 Apparel. That's the number 20x, the number 20 apparel.com. Now, let's get to the show.
Fresh is the word.
I'm Jim Duggan, got long wood for plenty hoes. I keep it fresher than fresh, but you already know. You suckers bummy, I'm money, I got a ton of flows. My weed loud like a motherfucking thunder roll. Your shit quiet like you ballin' on a budget though. We see your kicks and we laugh and yellin' what are those. You see me shining like a suit on puffy. You know my grindin' shit is too strong, buddy. That's why the dude call money. I be stuntin' like it's nothing at all. Cause it's nothing to me, it's probably something to y'all. Trying to smoke like me, then come and fuck with your dog. Got a closet full of kicks, you can't cop it tomorrow. And I'm fresher than the freshest, you can tell it's in my essence. Bitch, you see the way I'm rapping, yes I do this shit to death. Until I'm running out of breath, or tell somebody cut a check. But either way you know it's fresh, and either way you know it's fresh. Fresh, we fresh. Fresh, fresh, goddammit, we fresh.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. And on Fresh is the Word, we like to deliver wisdom through great stories from the minds of bright creators of pop culture. Through those stories, we like to dissect the journey of our guests and present actionable lessons and advice for our listeners, no matter what career or avenue of artistry they pursue. This episode's guest is Jason Aalon Butler, vocalist of the band Fever 333. Formerly in the band Let Live, Butler has started a new chapter of his life with the new project, Fever 333, with their full-length debut, Strength in Numbers, out now on Roadrunner Records. Butler's words are not only a call to arms about the society that we're living in, but also contain hope. And during our interview, we talked about the struggles growing up in Inglewood, California, why and how the Fever 333 project started, his musical upbringing, and finding ways for all of our voices to be heard. Before we get into this interview, I definitely want to give a shout out to Knox Money, Bang Belushi, and Foulmouth for the theme music for Fresh is the Word. And also, just want to remind you how you can support the podcast. You can always go to freshasthepodcast.com and share any links for any of the episodes on any of your social media platforms. And you can also subscribe to Fresh is the Word pretty much anywhere that podcasts are streamed, and that does include places like Apple Podcast, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, Podbean, pretty much everywhere. Just give us an old subscribe, and if you feel much inclined, give us a rating and review on those, especially on Apple Podcasts. It would definitely help getting the word out there about Fresh is the Word. And if you want to hit me up, you can always email me at djkfresh@gmail.com for any questions, concerns, anything you want to send me. That'd be great. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at kfreshisthe.word and on Facebook at facebook.com/kfresh. And you can follow Fresh is the Word on Twitter at freshisthe.word, and that's fresh is I-Z, the word. On Instagram at Fresh is the Word Podcast, and on Facebook at facebook.com/freshisthe.podcast. All right, let's get into the interview with Jason Aalon Butler of the band Fever 333. Yeah, over the past year, I've been hearing, just people, starting to talk about your new band, and I was like, okay, and I finally got around to checking you guys out, and I'm like, Holy shit, this is my type of band.
Oh, thanks, man.
I'm super excited. After, everybody, in this band has been in other bands before, not only how did this new band happen, why did it happen?
Man, I really think that it was just a reaction to what was going on, right? Like, without being too on the nose, clearly, like, ever since the ushering in of a new administration, the polarizing view of both politics and culture has been just so glaring that for me to stand back as an artist, and also, a person of color, someone who rides a very unique sort of line between being biracial in America and the way I understand and the way I've observed it my whole life, and then also studying and informing myself to the point where I can't be lied to. I felt like it was, for me, I felt very compelled to offer what I know and what I've experienced as a sort of an opportunity to help people understand in efforts to close that gap that seems to be widening between people and culture, not only in America, but also just globally.
Were you feeling a new energy with this new project in comparison to your time with Let Live?
Yeah, man. I mean, for anybody who wants to be, in the, I guess, considered an activist, and who wants to activate and who wants to try to push forward for social change and affect culture in that way, it's a very, very intense job. It's or I guess an intense effort. And for me to ask everyone that was involved in Let Live, both band and team, to kind of embark on this journey with me would be a lot to ask. And I don't believe that everybody, feels the same way about these things. And I don't think that, necessarily it's their obligation to feel the same way as I did. So when I went to this project, I was very encouraged to speak the way I speak, say the things I say, play the music I'm playing. I was very encouraged to, really open up this side of myself and be very transparent with how I feel about these issues. So because of that, all the bits of support from the boys in my band with me, to the other two pieces of the collective, Travis Barker and John Feldman, to my management, to our label, everybody seems very, very invested in what it is, I'm talking about. And there is absolutely a very different type of energy, and I'm very thankful for that energy.
When talking about that sort of journey and having other people coming along for it, how did you approach these other people that you're involved with now? You have Stephen Harrison, you have Eric and Prompto in the band right now. How did you sort of approach this new project, and what do those guys bring to the table in regards to having this trio of people in this new project?
Man, I told them straight up what it was. I told them what it wasn't going to be, and I told them everything that I had believed, was possible for a band like this, and for artists in general to accomplish, especially currently in today's climate. And that's what I presented to them. I was very honest. I was very transparent about the activism. I was very transparent about the idea of affecting change culturally. And because of that, they got a very clear idea of what it is that they were, signing up for. And not only did they, agree to it, but they willingly, but they also came with a sense of fire and their own experiences and their own talents and their own sense of representation for this project that only made it, even more powerful than I had really anticipated. So they bring everything from, again, even if we, for the most part, we all kind of sit on the same wave as far as, ideals, but there are differences. There is disparity between us. And I think that's what helps us have the discourse and have the discussions that are necessary in order to really understand a much larger spectrum of issues. And we, even between us three in the band, and then again, between us three in the band and the other two parts of the collective, John and Travis, I think between all of that, it really does open up our minds and also our efforts in trying to create something that speaks to more than just one person.
How do you go about having those discussions when you have, so many people that, you do have disparities about regards to your backgrounds? How do you go about having those discussions and being open-minded about them?
I think that you just have to first facilitate a comfortable forum for people to have those conversations. I think that people need to feel comfortable and respected enough to speak their mind and to speak their truth, because there's a sense of vulnerability that comes along with that can be very confronting. And so what we do is we respect each other just initially. At the very beginning of any conversation or emotion is a sense of respect. And also we do try to understand where this person is coming from. We try to understand their perspective while still maintaining our own agency, knowing that that's okay, and knowing that discourse is actually healthy, and it helps move the conversation forward in order to have all these various different ideas, cultures, practices, politics, and able to, in efforts to coexist, we have to first try to understand beyond one's own self.
How do you go about making sure that what you're producing, the music that's coming out, what you're saying comes off as genuine, and people are not going to, think you're posers or anything like that?
I mean, you just got to keep it 100% of the time with that shit. Like, you got to walk the walk if you're going to talk the talk. And, you got to demonstrate these things in your life as well, not just on wax. And, you should only be speaking on things that you understand or that you've experienced yourself, that are authentic to you, that are endemic to you and your experience in your life. And everything that we discuss, everything we talk about is just from experience, or it's from, very, very long concentrated observations throughout history and society. And to be 100, also, like, if you worry about people thinking whether or not you're faking the funk, like, that you're already taking a misstep if you worry about whether or not people believe you or not, because you got to know that you got to believe you
right
to begin with. So you know what I mean? Like, that's it. And all I'm ever trying to do is just really, you got to keep it 100 with yourself first. And I think that's kind of the primary method in making sure that you can try to at least be perceived as authentic.
When you kind of look back in your life, was there a point when you realized that you have a platform, you have a voice where you can, share your activism, or were you always just like an outspoken person?
Yeah, I was always pretty outspoken, to be honest. Yeah, like, I've just always kind of been that way. My family, my dad's black from the Midwest, my mom's white from Scotland, so I kind of rode this sort of ethnically ambiguous line my whole life, and I was told things. Called things that I was not, told that I would never be things that I wanted to be, and sort of having to really represent myself in a very strong sense, and speak for myself in order for people to know who I really am and what I'm about, was kind of necessary for my sort of, at least, survival early on socially. So I've always kind of been pretty big loudmouth. So, but I've also always tried to understand, that it's not just the way I think, it's not just what I feel, it's not just what I experience, but also not being afraid to talk about those things that I have felt and experienced.
What was your upbringing like? What kind of a kid were you?
I mean, I grew up in Inglewood, California, and I certainly involved myself in some of the typical activities that seem to be, endemic to Inglewood, which is, I grew up around some violence. I grew up around, a huge, like, greatly disadvantaged demographic. And what that did for me, also, like, aside from getting me into some trouble as a youth, it also made me question why are we born into this, and why are we placed in something that seems socially engineered to keep us down? And it forced me to understand that if I was going to leave, if I was going to get out of that, if I was going to improve my situation, I had to understand it first. So it really prompted me to try to understand my situation and sort of the systems that revolve or orbit around my situation, and see how I can use them to my advantage, and also how to navigate through them so that I don't continue to be disadvantaged.
When you're questioning all those things during your upbringing, who are you looking towards for answers? Was there anybody that was giving you that information?
Yeah, man, it was the books. It was a lot of reading and studying, and then music. As cliche as it sounds, coming from an artist, like a musician, like, music is what taught me how to express how I felt. And it was also what taught me that not everything, that you read or everything that you see is the gospel or the big T truth,
What books do you remember reading, and what like music really inspired you during that time?
I said this in another interview earlier. One of the biggest pieces of change that I got was in high school with a teacher in my 11th grade advanced placement American history class. His name was Mr. Leaf, and Mr. Leaf taught us alternative, or it wasn't actually the alternative history. It was actually the correct history on our country, how we got here, and how we made how we built this nation on the backs of others by willingly choosing to subjugate and using and exploit people's bodies, in the name of finance and commerce, and also just to build a country the country that we see today. And so for me, it was just a lot of education, at school, reading. And then as I got older, things like James Baldwin, obviously, artists like Nina Simone were really big to me, and Billie Holiday, like things like Blood on the Leaves, like things like that sound so beautiful to me, and try to almost like allure me or like intoxicate me to listen to them because of their melody and because of their sway, and then sort of listening to the lyrics and going, oh my gosh, this is so much deeper than what I thought I was singing to, things like that. And of course, the gods, Rage Against the Machine, creating like a crossover music that's like funky and heavy, and then spitting real shit over that music was also something that inspired me very young, like 6th grade.
Right. When did you first start to get the music bug and want to like start doing music?
My father was a musician. When he was in Little Richard's band, and he played with War, and he
Nice.
did his own solo career and things like that. So from the very beginning, man, and because of his experience with music, where he kind of got the shit end of the stick, he kind of him and my mother tried to. Sorry, my kid's wilding right now. Him and my mother tried to, like, they made music seem a little bit more taboo, and because of that, I was really inclined to. I wanted to know what it was. You know what I'm saying? Like that forbidden fruit shit. So from a young age, like very, very young age, sneak into my dad's garage and play his guitar and his keyboards and all that shit. And then I got a guitar when I was like 12. They finally gave in and got me a musical instrument, and it was like, just kind of, it was all on from there.
What was the first like serious thing that you did in music? Do you remember like the first thing that you ever wrote, or the first show that you ever did? What was the first serious thing that you ever did?
Yeah, my dad had this crazy idea that I was gonna be like a child, like kind of like star who like sang and rapped and shit. So yeah, we wrote this song called "School Is Cool." Fuck, man. When I was like 10 or something, maybe 9 or 10, and we wrote this song, and we were like, I remember we went to like Paramount Studios or something, and we sat in at this, I think it was like all these different administrations and some like labels and whatever, and they came to like watch me perform this song called "School Is Cool," and obviously they didn't like it too much because ain't shit happened from that. So that's like the first time I remember performing, really.
Right. When I listen, I had a advanced link to the new album, Strength in Numbers, for the past week, and really, really dig it. And when I'm listening to it, I hear your activism, I hear this rebellious tone to it, but also I hear like this other side of hope on the other side of it. Talk about your songwriting and having this sort of, diversity in the content, where you feel the rebellion, but you also feel the hope behind it.
I mean, you got to, right? Like, otherwise, if you believe that everything is failed or is like doomed, and yeah, I think that if you believe that if there's something positive at the end. You know what I'm saying? If there's something that you are working towards, then you can maintain the effort. But, you know, if you sit there and believe that everything you do kind of is you know, I guess scheduled to fail at some point, then I don't think that I would have the same sort of excitement, or I wouldn't feel as encouraged to continue on. So, and also, man, like, I've seen it, right? Like, I grew up on welfare, you know, right next to the project housing. And now I don't live that life because of, you know, because I tried to inform myself, and I tried to understand, and I tried to take the opportunities that I was given to change my situation. And luckily I was able to do that. But I also understand that, you know, systemically, a lot of situations and people and demographics are literally put in a position where they can't do that, or they're held back so far that it's actually quite, like, again, by way of policy, it makes it much harder for people to do that. So I'm not saying that everybody should just pick themselves up and leave. I'm saying that what we should do is understand it, and understand there is a sense of hope, and maybe that sense of hope can really can guide us, can be our guiding light towards what we want to see changed.
When you're able to, you know, take what you learn and better your life, you know, do you still, you know, feel like the pain that you had when you of the way you grew up as, you know, when you were younger, and how do you sort of keep that, you know, in your mind, in your chamber, in your feelings, when you're, you know, writing music still, when you've been able to, you know, do better things in your life?
Well, I think it would be remiss and negligent of me to pretend like I didn't experience these things before I got to, you know, and here's the thing is I still experience these things, like, whether I like it or not. Like, my hair is, you know, is more coarse, and my nose is wider, and I look a lot more tan than my white friends. So no matter what, like, I carry these, whether I choose to carry the experience with me the whole time, you know, phenotypically, my physiognomy, I am who I am. And to some people, that is immediately some sort of red flag or an assumption that will be made about who I am. And I realize that, and I understand that, and I don't harbor that feeling to carry a sense of contempt. I carry that so I know how to act accordingly, and how I can navigate, again, these scenarios, how I'm supposed to get through it. And also, my experience is someone else's experience. My past is someone else's present. And because of that, I need to make sure that I offer representation. That's like what I'm here to do, right? That's, as an artist, I'm here to hold a mirror up to the world and say, this is what's happening, or at least as I see it. So I'm just trying to offer representation when it comes to all that.
With someone who has such a diverse biracial background that you do you often get the "what are you" question, and what, you know, and does it bother you, or, you know, how do you react to that?
I get it all the time. I'm like ethnically ambiguous. I could be anything from like Latino to Persian, black, white. Like, it's always a question, and I get it. I understand it, and or I guess it's more so I am used to it. But I just say what I am. You know, I just say I'm a person of color. My father's black, my mother's white. I serve as like a double agent racially. You know, I've seen both sides of the fence. And I try to inform people. I try to, you know, explain to them what that kind of, you know, that sort of identity is like, and the experience that I've had, and try to hope that they, you know, there's a sense of understanding, and you can see why my perspective is as it is.
Going into the album Strength in Numbers, what was sort of your mind state about what you wanted to do? What did you want to talk about, themes and whatnot? And do you feel like you were able to accomplish it, or accomplish more of it?
Yeah, man, the whole idea was power, right? It was a sense of power that I wanted to reallocate from a system that I feel, again, is leveraging it against us. I want to take that power, and I want to give that back to the people in a sense of empowerment through a audio manifesto, if you will. So with this album, I just wanted to offer represented. I wanted to offer, the project as an advocate for people that feel displaced or feel like they don't have a space to be who they are. And at the end of it all, I wanted to offer, again, like I wanted all this sense of power, the power that we hold inherently, that we possess as people. I wanted people to recognize that. And I also wanted them to know that I see them and that I believe them and I believe in their efforts and I believe in what they want to change. And I believe in, the things that they want to speak about and they want, the stories they want to tell and the stories they want told. This album is that, man. It's really my effort to offer a sense of power back to the people.
And in return, what do you want the people to do with this knowledge, with this music, or just in general, in this sort of activism way?
I want them to acknowledge it, man. I want them to feel as though they're not alone. I want people to understand, again, that these are truths, even if they're not self-evident to someone, even if they're not something that you have experienced, even if it's not something that you can see immediately. Understand that experience is truth, and these are the experiences of many people. I want to offer a space for people to extend a sense of empathy so that we can feel included, and so that everybody can feel included in the conversation. I want to promote discourse. I want to promote conversation even when it's uncomfortable. I want people to be able to really exist amongst each other and understand that we do have differences and we do have disparity, but I would rather focus on the things that we have in common, or at least I'd rather focus on an effort to understand rather than highlight our differences.
What's your advice about how people can have conversations, even if they're uncomfortable?
Man, it's just understanding that sometimes that's the nature of the game, isn't it? Like sometimes, the uncomfortable conversations are the ones that we need to have because they hold such a weight that has been sort of, I guess, moving us forward or backwards or left or right. The weight of that discomfort is probably because it's a very, very real scenario, and it's very it's going to be effective if it's discussed, but because of that, the discomfort is a hurdle that we have to get over first in order to have that conversation. And I think also we've sort of honed in on the sense of complacency as a people, where we feel as though, well, maybe we can just act as if it's not there, or just pretend like we're okay with it and just get along. But I think that's where the imbalance of power lies, is that we are allowing society to become more complacent and with these things that that we should be discussing. So I think that the hard conversations are the ones that we need to have.
How do you go about speaking your mind in a music industry where at times many people might not feel the need, the want, or even have the space to speak their mind? I mean, honestly, man, I'm not even thinking about the industry when it comes to like speaking my mind. I don't think that the industry necessarily, should be the arbiter or the moral arbiter or the societal arbiter, telling us what we can or can't say, or what we should be saying, or how we should say it. I don't think that the industry has any real place other than they should allow us to a platform to do it. And they should be the ones that are, feel lucky enough to have people out there talking about some real shit that'll really affect change beyond just the pocketbooks or people's wallets. I don't really think that the industry has, any, I guess they shouldn't feel like that they can influence us not to speak our truth. And that's just being real. I just don't think that. I don't think that the industry has any place for someone who wants to be authentic. I don't think that they should feel detracted from, or they should compromise their authenticity due to what the industry wants. That to me is just crazy. Right. When you look back to in your life, in your career, is there any sort of a nugget of knowledge that you could pass on that anybody listening to this interview, whether they know your band or even like music, or they might even be from their artistry might be in a whole different avenue, that they could, take that little bit of nugget of knowledge and apply it into their own life?
Yeah, man, is that you possess a sense of power that is uncanny, a sense of power that can truly shape and shift and affect the world. But it starts with your own world. It starts with you. It starts with understanding and recognizing that power, understanding where that power is most effective, where it's the strongest within you or in your efforts. Understanding that whether you're an artist or you're a painter, like literally someone who paints houses, or you're a carpenter, or you're a fucking fence builder, whatever you are, if you are able to take that sense of power and understand and be happy with who it is you are or who you want to be, and use that as fuel to accomplish who you want to be, then that to me is a sense of happiness and a sense of understanding of one's own self that will make it easier for you to accept everyone around you. And then that energy, you'll be responsible for a much more positive energy for everything around you.
How do you feel like someone can find their own power, and how did you find your power?
Representation, bro. Like, I saw people that looked like me, that sounded like me, that felt like me. And I was offered a sense of representation, and I saw in the books the alternative learning that I got, when I wasn't seeing faces like mine or like my family or my community in the history books, with the successes, with the riches, with the sort of with the bringing up of various societies. When I started seeing people like me doing great things, I realized that I also have power like that. And I think that that's kind of hopefully what we can offer is that we represent people and the people, and we represent a sense of, like, again, that sense of power, and really trying to show people that we understand what it's like to not have that, or to feel like we don't have that power. And we're just trying to initiate that within them.
In your opinion, how do you fight for representation, and how do you create representation?
Talk about shit. You know what I'm saying? You be there. You show your face. You be proud to be who you are. You be proud to be where you are when you're there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you share your story. You share yourself with others that look like you as well as don't look like you. You must present your sense of representation to any and everyone when given the opportunity. I think that that's what it's about. Spreading it and expanding this idea of what it is you believe in and why you believe in it. I think that that's how that's how you offer representation, and you're mindful. You're cognizant of yourself, what you represent, and also those around you and what they represent. I think that we must acknowledge other pieces of this bigger puzzle of representation as well.
Before we get out of this, before we finish this interview, is there anything else you would like to share about the band or the new album, Strength in Numbers?
I honestly, man, I just think that I want people to know that this project is somewhere for them to feel safe. And all people, I really do mean it. I mean all people, whether you are antithetical to my beliefs or not, if you feel like you're an inherent adversary, whatever it is, everyone, we would like to invite everybody to involve themselves in this project in a safe manner, in a way that we encourage discourse, encourage the conversation in order to move that conversation forward. And again, various types of representation. And I want people to feel free to be who it is they are and who they want to be. And that's what you can find with this project. Great.
Yeah, it's been great talking with you, Jason. Where can people go online to get more information?
They can go to fever333.com, or Fever, I guess, yeah, they can go there. We're on all the platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or you can hit us up directly too. We try to speak to as many people as we can, whether that be on social media or in person. So.
All right, that's great, man. Like I said, I love the new album. It's my kind of shit. You, I'm excited to hear more from you guys, and good luck with everything.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
So that was my interview with Jason Aalon Butler, vocalist of the band Fever 333. Right now, they are on tour with Bring Me to Horizon, which is new album is amazing, and Thrice, who always puts out amazing music. So check their website, which is fever333.com, for more information about those tour dates. And like always, you can go to the show notes for this podcast episode at freshasthepodcast.com for all the links to be able to follow Jason Aalon Butler and Fever 333 online, along with the stream and purchase links for Strength in Numbers. It's definitely an amazing album, and I definitely love it. It's already one of my favorite albums of 2019, and it could end up in my top 10 when the year closes. All right, that's another episode of Fresh is the Word in the books. Thank you for listening as always. See you next week or whenever the next episode drops. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.